Good evening, Pratham. Okay, good evening, Samesh. So today we'll be finishing off this chapter, locomotion and movement. I'll tell you some extra stuff regarding the NEET examination, and then we may begin the next chapter also in this class only. Like the nervous system, right, may be remaining for you. Nervous system has the excretory been taught? Urinary. I think nervous is remaining. Endocrinology is that is remaining. Hormonal, and then excretory is remaining. I don't know. So has urinary been taught completely? Kidneys and all. So, I'll just give you some basic information, okay, regarding the bones. So last time we were talking about the types of bones. So we have a simple classification which is asked in many competitive examinations. Okay, that I'll tell you. You have sutural bones. Sutural bones. I'll show it to you side by side also. Sutural bone. So this is how a sutural bone looks like. Okay, you can just tap on an image. So this is how it looks like. Okay. So sutural bone means it's also known as a Vernian bone. You can see in the image only. They are small, flat, and very oddly shaped. You can say they are found between the flat bones of the skull. Okay, so that is their location. So they range in size from a grain of sand to a quarter, and their borders are like a jigsaw puzzle. You can say. So this is how they look. That is a sutural bone. Now type B is the irregular bone. Okay, type B is the irregular bone. Sometimes they are asked very common sense questions. Irregular bone. Now if we talk about irregular bone, so under irregular bone, you may be having the complex bone shaped sized bones like short, flat. Okay, so the vertebrae, the vertebral bone, I should be saying the vertebral bone comes under the irregular bone. If I show you the vertebral bone, that comes under the irregular bone. So this one, so this shape is irregularly shaped. This is the shape of one of the bones connected via cartilage to the other bone in the human vertebrae. Okay, so this is the, and human vertebrae contains 26 bones, right? 7 in the cervical, 12 bones in the thoracic region, okay, 5 in the lower region, lumbar region, then 1 sacral which is a fused bone, and 1 coccyx, again a fused bone. So if you add up all this, you'll get 26 bones. Okay. So as per the NEET examination, tick on 26 bones for human vertebral or vertebrae. Then you have short bones. So short bones are box-like in appearance. You have the carpal bone, okay, of the wrists. You have the tarsal bone of the ankles. They are known as the short bones, okay. Then we have flat bones. So flat bones have, if I show you flat bone, flat bones. Here you have flat bones also. Okay, flat bone, sesamoid bone, long bone, short bone. These are the tarsal, metatarsal. Irregular is the vertebrae. Okay, so flat bone, like you can see here. So flat bone means what? They have, you can say, thin parallel surfaces, and flat bones, they form the roof of the skull, the sternum, also known as the breastbone. Okay, the ribs. Okay, the scapula or the shoulder blade. This one, backside. This is the collarbone. Okay, this is the scapula or the shoulder blade. Okay, so they provide protection for, you can say, underlying soft tissues, and offer an extensive surface area for the attachment of skeletal muscle, because you have a huge area, so skeletal muscles can nicely attach via tendons to these bones. Okay, then we have the long bones. So long bones are relatively long and also slender, little bit thinner. Okay, so they are located in the arm, the forearm, you can say humerus, radius, ulna. Okay, and then we have something like thigh bone, femur, then soles, then palms, okay, fingers and toes. Okay, so the femur, I think you might be knowing already, the thigh bone is the largest and heaviest bone in the human body. It is the most, you can say, the strongest bone too. Okay, sometimes it is referred to as stronger than a concrete also. Then last one you can see in the figure is the sigmoid bone, which we have talked about in the last class. They're usually small, round and flat. Okay, and what happens is they are found near the joints of the knees, hands and feet. So the patella bone or the kneecap, okay, you can see in this image, the patella bone or the kneecap are the best examples of the sigmoid bone. This one, sigmoid bone. Okay, so these are the types of bones that you should be knowing already. So coming on to next are the types of joints. Okay, so the types of joints, when we talk about, we have three types of joints. We have the fibrous joints, we have the cartilaginous joint, okay, and then we have the synovial joint. But before going into that classification, okay, before going into that classification, I'll tell you about three things which are also again asked in NEET examination sometimes. Okay, sometimes some questions are there from 1995 and all. So those things are still asked sometimes. So I'll just give you two classifications of those bones. Okay, so as per your NCERT, just go with this configuration. Okay, the configuration is fibrous joint. Okay, then you have cartilaginous joint. Then you have synovial joint. Synovial fluid, synovial joint. So the fibrous joints are present here on the skull. Okay, 8 bones are there on the skull, mostly on the skull, because none of the bones you can be moving. Cartilaginous joint, you can say all the human vertebra connected via cartilages. So the vertebra can move. You have this specific bend in the vertebra, in the bend in the here also, the neck. Okay, so then the synovial joint, when we talk about, these are the most movable joints, most freely movable. Maximum, you can say, maneuverability is present in the synovial joints. All these ones, ball and socket joint, elbow joint, right? So these are all known as synovial joints. You can see saddle joint, then ball and socket joint. So all these are known as synovial joints only. Like you might have heard of all this. So we'll get into the detail. But one more classification is, which is a better one. Okay, because all the cartilaginous joints, they are not movable. As per this one, cartilaginous joints, they can move little bit. They just cannot move. Okay, but there are cartilaginous joints. The problem in this classification is there are you can say cartilaginous joints which cannot move, which simply do not move. So that is also asked sometimes in NEET examination. For NCERT, this is okay. Okay, for your home examination, if you write these three classifications or these 3 points in the classification category, you will get full marks. But for NEET examination, just note down one more type of classification that I'll be telling you. Number 1 is immovable joint, which does not move. Okay, immovable joint. This joint does not move whatsoever. Immovable joint does not move. So immovable joint is also known as synarthrosis. Very, very important. This term is synarthrosis. Just remember this thing, that's all. Synarthrosis is the immovable joint. Now, a synarthrosis can be fibrous or cartilaginous, both, that I was telling you. Okay. It can be fibrous or cartilaginous, both, right? Depending on the type of connection formed by the two bones in the joint. Okay, over time these two bones may fuse together, that is known as ossification, forming a bony joint. That can also happen eventually, that is known as synarthrosis. Number 2 is slightly movable joint, okay, known as amphiarthrosis. Number 2 is amphiarthrosis slash slightly movable joint. Okay, what does this mean? This means that this is a specific type of movement. Amphi means both sides, so it moves to both sides. So it is either a fibrous joint or again a cartilaginous joint. So fibrous joints can also move little bit. Okay, that was the problem in that classification. That why I am explaining to you this classification also, so that the concept is completely clear. Okay, you should not, you can say, dodge with the concept. Sometimes there are fibrous joints also which can move in both directions, amphi. Okay, this can again be both, you can say, cartilaginous and fibrous. Okay, so depending on the type of connection between the opposing bones, okay, depending on the type of connection between the opposing bones, we have both fibrous and cartilaginous. I'll give you some examples also to make this thing more clear. Cartilaginous joints coming under the category of amphiarthrosis. Okay, always remember this. Third point, the much discernible third point is the freely movable joint, that is known as the synovial joint. Now there are two, you can say, two ways about it, that fibrous and cartilaginous can never be freely movable. The freely movable belongs to the third classification, which is correctly given, known as synovial joint. Okay, there is no dispute about that. So completely freely movable is the synovial joint. Okay, because what you have is, you have something known as completely freely movable. I had shown to you the synovial joint thing. You have that capsule, okay, you have that articulating bones. The joints are known as articulations. Now the bones do not collide with each other. They are covered by articulating cartilage, and then the cartilages also, they do not collide with each other, because the synovial membrane surrounding the synovial joint, it is 1 to 2 cell layer thick. It secretes specific products known as a specific matrix known as the synovial fluid, that hinders the collision of the cartilage and acts as a specific shock absorber, the mechanical shock absorber, right? A lot of proteoglycans are present in that thing. Specific molecules like hyaluronic acid, heparan sulfate, dermatan sulfate, all these are present. Okay, so those are specific molecules. We will not talk about those molecules, but that is why synovial fluid is different to the interstitial fluid. You can term it as an interstitial fluid also, but a lot of more quantity of proteoglycans, especially containing hyaluronan or hyaluronic acid, is present in that synovial joint, in order to keep it completely, you can say, mostly in order to reduce the friction between the articulating cartilages. Okay. So this joint is known as diarthrosis. Okay. Diarthrosis means completely throughout, through you can say. So diarthrosis. So this is known as diarthrosis. Okay. So you have amphiarthrosis, you have synarthrosis, right? You have diarthrosis. Syn means together, so it will never move. Okay. Synarthrosis, amphiarthrosis, and diarthrosis. Okay. So I'll give you some examples. Okay, where you will see the fibrous joints. Okay, being synarthrosis. If you look at an image, or if you look at the joint where you can say the cartilaginous connection between the ends of the first pair of, you can say, the vertebro-sternal ribs and the sternum, that never moves, but that is via your specific cartilage. So that never moves. Okay, this connection which I had explained to you in the last class, it never moves, but it is a cartilaginous joint. Okay, so it will fall under the synarthrosis. One more thing is, if you consider specific immovable, you can say immovable joint, when two bones fuse and the boundary between them disappears. So the rear frontal bone, you can say, or the frontal suture of the frontal bone, this one, okay, is the, how does it happen? It happens due to, you can say, a specific fusion happens, okay, of an infant's left and right mandibular bones. So then you have something known as the mature long bone. This frontal bone is produced. Then you have this specific cartilaginous joint, but it is again non-movable. Okay, and then you have the suture. So the sutures are again completely made up of synarthrotic joint. Okay, the edges of the bones are interlocked and bound together at the suture by dense fibrous connective tissue. Okay, just like the, you can say, skull. The between the various skull bones, I'll just show you the suture here. Dense fibrous connective tissue, so that the two bones are completely immovable. The sutures of the skull. You see, these are the sutures of the skull. So that's why skull cannot move. Okay, the skull bones cannot move, and they are specifically the fibrous joints. Okay, you have dense fibrous connective tissue. Okay, so a lot of collagen fibers are present. Yeah, sure. I'll tell you. Good evening, Gayatri. So I'll tell you about the motor neuron disease. Okay. Yeah, infants will have more than 300, mostly 306 bones. Okay, because at the time when the infants are born, okay, the bones are still growing, the epiphyseal plates are still forming. If you learn about the bone anatomy, Gayatri, like in the next Google Meet class, next Sunday, we'll be talking about, I'll explain to you the bone anatomy. Because the thing is, in your NCERT course, bone anatomy is not given at all. Directly they have jumped onto joints. So it becomes very, very difficult for me to explain the joint without talking anything about the bone. Like in your book, osteoblast, osteoclast, how does the bone form? Nothing has been given. Like if I say epiphyseal plate, you will think like what I'm talking about. If I say diaphysis, metaphysis, you wouldn't be knowing. Okay, so I'll just briefly show you the various images of bone and what do you mean by a bone actually. What is a compact bone? What is a spongy bone? Okay, so the basics of the bone are, you can say, a student, specifically a biology student, must be aware of. So I'll just show you the bone structure. Just know that the bone structure in or you can say in an infant, okay, cannot hold on to itself, because if it doesn't fuse, the infant's, the thing is, after it grows, the infant grows and becomes an adult, and when they'll fall, they'll lead to a lot of bone breakage. Okay, you might have heard of hyper, you can say, flexible joints, hyper flexible joints. So you might have heard of or might have seen, witnessed some people are able to do like this. They'll make this touch here, okay, or they'll completely do all these things, their wrist will bend and all. That is again due to hyper flexible ligaments, tendons, but that increases the, you can say, probability, susceptibility of them to getting any kind of serious injuries. Okay, so those things are present. So we'll talk about bone in the next class also. Like for 20 minutes, I'll explain to you the overview of human bone that you should be knowing. Then you will be able to understand this joint chapter or this joint portion in a much better way. Okay. So tell me, has this excretory system or urinary system been taught, Gayatri, completely? Then we can start over with the any other chapter, like, or Pratham, like, has it been taught here? Urinary system, nervous system, like, so like which chapter shall I start with next? So urinary or nervous or hormone, endocrinology. Okay, okay, nervous system. Okay, fine. So I'll just begin nervous system. You can say the introductory part in this class only. Then we'll continue with the nervous system. That is the most interesting chapter. How do we think? And you will have so many questions. Why do we think? How do we think? What is consciousness? Still, big scientists, big shots. Even in Harvard University, Oxford University, they are finding about consciousness. What is consciousness? And how do you define consciousness? What are, you can say, psychiatric diseases that we call depression, schizophrenia, we can say bipolar disorders. Okay, what are those? Why why do these things even occur? Okay, what is autism spectrum disorder? Is it only psychological, or is there any kind of, you can say, physiological connection in the brain? So it has been seen in the research that every psychological disorder that was told that it is only psychological has got its root causes, biological root causes. So in few years time, okay, the entire psychology field, I think, will be vanished. It will merge with psychiatry, because psychiatry will prescribe, or psychiatrist will prescribe a specific or some specific drugs to you in order to cope up. Okay. Yeah, ask Pratham. Circulatory system. Ask. Go ahead. You can ask any question regarding your course. Okay. And these chapters are very, very important. If they are not taught conceptually, you will be in huge problem. Circulatory, urinary, like if you don't know the net filtration pressure, there was a question in the NEET class. So you are all baffled, net filtration pressure. Okay. So why do octopuses have 3 hearts? Okay. So the 3 heart system is different. 2 hearts you have 3 hearts also, you have 4 hearts also. Okay. There are various ways the hearts can function. Okay. Always know, it's never that in our body only, since we are the most advanced of the advanced creatures. Okay. So in our body only, the 4 chambered, okay, you are saying 3 hearts. Okay, I was thinking about the chambers. So the thing is, the hearts, always know. If you might have heard of, wait, one thing, this one, Ascaris lumbricoids. I think you might have heard of it. Okay, under the Ask helminths. So the Ascaris lumbricoides, many people say they have got some 32 brains. You might have heard. Okay, but it is never 32 brain. Okay, they are never 32 brains. Okay, what happens is, what they have is different ganglion. Ganglion is something known as cluster of neuronal cell body, the cyton of the neuron. Okay, the perikaryon of the neuron present in the peripheral nervous system. So what happens is, there are clusters and they are connected by interneurons. Those ganglions are connected by interneurons, but those are independent ganglions. So many people, they mistakenly say that they have 32 brains. Okay, but the brain is only one. In case of octopus, what happens is they have two specific hearts, okay, which can pump the blood to the gills, and while a third heart, it will do what? It will circulate the blood through the rest of the body. Okay, so same could be said about squids also. Okay, so you have a specific heart system in you can say octopuses, and sometimes it is also said, okay, it is also said that they have 9 brains. Okay, but is it true? 9 brains. So 9 brains are again not true. Why? Because again they will be having, you can say, ganglion. Okay, so ganglion means, you might have heard of nuclei and ganglion. So nuclei and ganglion are completely different when you, or ganglia or nucleus. Nucleus doesn't mean cell nucleus. Nucleus means neuronal cell body cluster. Okay, cell body cluster which is present in the CNS, This is the cell body cluster, a cluster of multiple millions of neurons, a cell body in the peripheral nervous system. That is the meaning of nuclei and ganglia when it comes to the nervous system. Okay, so the thing is, a central brain is present in octopus, okay, which will control different ganglia, and those ganglia can be independent, so they are said that it has 9 brains. Okay, same way, what happens is you have something known as 3 hearts. Okay, so what happens is their bodies are made up of what? Their bodies are made up of muscle, okay, except for 2 small plates anchoring their heads. Okay, so what happens is different places you have different pumping machines. You can call them hearts also, or simply you can say myocyte fibers which keep on pumping the blood. So that is another theory. Okay, and they have blue blood, means you have copper rich. Okay, you have copper in the system, that is known as hemocyanin. Okay, hemocyanin, copper rich, blue blood. So those things are there that have these things have to be understood in a perspective. It is not that 3-4 chambered hearts are present. You have muscular chambers which pump blood. Okay, because the body distribution is such that you have all muscles here and there. Okay, so one heart, they are not evolutionarily that advanced that they will have one proper heart which will be able to pump blood throughout the body, the octopuses. Okay, so the thing is, they are evolutionarily less advanced. So different ganglia, they control different muscles like that. Okay, it happens in humans also, but in octopuses the events are, you can say, much more, you can say, you are able to see discernible events. Okay, so any other question, Pratham? Okay, so the synovial joints that we talk about. Okay, the synovial joints, I'll show you an image here. Synovial joint image. Gayatri, I hope you are able to. This time I am zooming it in, the image. Okay, so I'll just share the image with you. You will be able to see the synovial joint in detail. Okay, okay, can you see the image now? I've just shared. Okay, Pratham. Now Gayatri and Pratham, can you see the image properly? Is it visible properly, or do I need to zoom in more? Okay, good. Just look at the image properly here. You can see here ligament. This is the ligament that connects. Okay, so this is the lateral collateral ligament. Okay, medial collateral will be this side, and this side it is not shown. It is a 3D diagram. So back side will be anterior and posterior cruciate ligaments. But here you can see the metaphysis of the bone. Okay, the periosteum of the bone. So that's why you need to know little bit about the bone. Okay, So this is the synovial joint between the femur and tibia, okay, the thigh bone and the shin bone, you can say. Okay, so what happens is you have this articular cartilage. So articular cartilage is nothing but the cartilage which covers the joints. So joints means articulations in biology. Okay, joints means articulation. So you have this articular cartilage. You may have some fat pads also here. Okay, and then this cavity will contain the synovial fluid, which will be secreted by which one? This 1 to 2 cell layer thing. You can see here the synovial membrane. Okay, and this is the fibrous joint capsule. So this entire thing is a synovial joint, and thus you do not generate too much friction. Most of the friction is reduced, is taken away due to the presence of the synovial fluid. Okay, it's a great thing, and it contains mostly proteoglycans. I'll show you in the doubt class what proteoglycans are. You will be amazed. These are special, you can say, sugar molecules with amine group and sulfur. Disaccharides with amine group and sulfur. They are known as glycosaminoglycans. When they are attached to proteins, the proteins become proteoglycan. So those glycosaminoglycans means double sugar attached to amine group and sulfur. Okay, those are very important. Okay, so non-sulfurous disugar with amine group is one of those is hyaluronic acid. So they are mostly present in this, you can say, synovial fluid. You must have seen or just look at Amazon.in and type hyaluronic acid. So you will see the supplements showing in. So the supplements will start showing up, and those supplements can be taken by people who are suffering from osteoarthritis or just have been at the first stage of osteoarthritis, means cartilage degradation or synovial fluid synthesis in them has been impaired. So sometimes what happens is the immune cells, they attack the synovial membrane. The monocytes, the macrophages, they attack the synovial membrane, and due to that attack, T cell attack, cytokine release, okay, pro-inflammatory factors like what I have described in my channel many times during the SARS-CoV-2 videos. So those things also, like TNF alpha and IL-6 and all, interleukin 6, tumor necrosis factor alpha. So these proteins, they attack on the synovial membrane, and they can completely destroy the membrane, and therefore the fluid will not be produced. Eventually what will happen, the cartilage will start to touch each other, will start to collide with each other when we will move, because all the weight is on the knee, and when we will stand is on the, you can say, this thigh bone and this thigh bone and this shin bone will collide, and most of the weight is on knee, so knee gets most of the damage. Okay, so then this cartilage will eventually wear and tear, will be worn off, and then the bones will start to collide, direct bone to bone collision, and that's when you will not be able to move at all. You will become completely, you can say, sessile at one place, and you might have to go for metallic knee, known as knee replacement therapy. Okay, same way hip replacement is done here, knee replacement is done here, shoulder replacement therapy can also be done, that is also a synovial joint, and so on. Okay, so the thing is, this cartilage cannot grow back because cartilages are avascular. There is no direct connection of blood vessel. They take nutrients via diffusion. But there has been a research this year only where the US scientists have been able to regrow cartilage. Okay, that is at its preliminary, you can say, preliminary stage, but there is a lot of promise in that study. They have been able to regrow cartilage. So that's a great breakthrough, enormous breakthrough, you can say, monumental breakthrough in the field of osteoarthritic research. One more thing is, you can see this ligament. So when you twist the bone, okay, what happens is, if the ligament gets torn, first of all, the bone will break. One of the ligaments will be little bit, you can say, some fibers will be torn, not the complete ligament, that is known as a sprain, and then the bone will break. But if the ligament breaks, again an evolutionary concept is, if the ligament breaks, the ligament cannot heal as fast as the bone. Okay, that is why some of the, first we get some sprain. Sprain means some fibers of the ligament, means the collagen fibers, may get ruptured, but the ligament is fine. The joint is still intact. But when the ligament tear happens, and before ligament breakage, bone breakage will happen. That's the evolutionary way that the humans have been able to evolve themselves. But sometimes the injury is so enormous that what happens is the ligament tear happens. The ligaments are completely torn. Now in that case, you go for reconstructive surgery, because again ligaments are avascular. There is no direct blood vessel supplying blood to the ligament, whereas bones have blood vessels. So ligaments, they again rely, like cartilages, on diffusion for the nutrients to come in. So it takes much more time for a ligament to heal compared to a bone. That's why even after the reconstructive operations, you still take 7 to 9 months to heal. You might have seen many WWE or football or NBA stars getting those kind of operations done or performed in their body because of a variety of, you can say, very heinous and drastic, and you can say debilitating injuries, because that's the part and parcel of their life. So they have to undergo those operations, surgeries, right? So that keeps on happening. Yeah, what is slip disc? So Gayatri, yeah, you can go for 1080p, it will be completely seen. Okay, so the thing is, slip disc is a good question. You have something known as disc. Okay, I'll just show you a disc. Okay, the discs that connect the two, you can say discs that connect, but let me, Gayatri, can you see the text now? Did you change the quality? Is the text visible? Because I've zoomed in properly, Pratham can see. So can you see the text? Is the text visible to you in the video? Like after that I can change the slide. Okay. So have you seen this? Like, are you clear with it, or shall I explain it to you again? Like, have you been able to comprehend completely? Where is the slip? Where is the membrane, synovial membrane, capsule, ligament? Okay. Is it clear completely? The joint, synovial joint, because that image you won't get in your NCERT book. So this is a medical book from where I'm showing you the image, so that you get the real concept of the synovial joint, the perfect image of that synovial joint. These medical books, Harrison and all, they have proper, you can say, joint and all the images, like authentic image from where your concepts will be completely clear and crystal. So is there any doubt there, Gayatri, in the image, or shall I proceed? Okay, so slip disc Pratham was saying, so I'll just share the main screen now with you for slip disc. Okay, so I'll share the disc with you, slip disc image. Here on disc of vertebral column. Okay. Just look at this one. You'll be able to see very properly. You can see this is the normal. This is known as the disc. Okay, this is known as a disc, a specialized cartilage which has fluid filled inside it. Okay, which helps the two vertebral columns have some movement, because if there is no movement, vertebral column will be like this. I cannot move like this. So you need movement. So because of that, the bones are attached. These vertebrae, these bones are attached to each other via specialized cartilages. They are known as discs. Okay. So always know that is known as disc. Okay. So what happens is, when you look at a disc, you can see this is the normal disc. If you have too much postural defect, you will have a degenerative disc. Means the outer part will start cracking, okay, or it is getting, you can say, too much compressed. Bulging means the inside matrix is putting a lot of pressure on the covering of the cartilage, so the bulge has occurred. Okay, that is known as disc bulge. And when the inside material, okay, when the inside material present in the disc comes out of the disc, tearing the disc apart, that is known as herniated disc. This herniation of the disc is only referred to as slip disc. Okay, this is an irreversible damage now. Now what you can go for is remove the disc and go for fusion surgery, bone to bone fusion. Okay, that is the best thing that you can do. Okay, that's the best thing that you can do, the fusion surgeries. So if you see that disc here, okay, I'll show you again one more thing. I'll show you it. Let me search the image. So inside you have, let me type it here. I'll show you the nucleus pulposus and nucleus pulposus. Now you will be able to see this image, proper image. Okay. Fibrous annulus and nucleus pulposus, then or annulus fibrosus. Just see this one. This is a better image. Okay, I'll open this in Wikipedia. Just look at this. This is known as a disc. If you see this disc here, this has been viewed here. Okay. So the inner part that I was talking about is the nucleus pulposus. Okay, this is the matrix part. Okay. The fibrous annulus or annulus fibrosus is the outer part. So when there is too much pressure, suppose I am always like this. Okay. And due to my posture, there is some kind of degenerative damage, means the fibrous annulus or annulus fibrosus will be ruptured due to the pressure put by the disc in them, and that pressure put the rupturing will do what? It will squeeze, like you have the Amazon packages, when they get squeezed, the entire content comes out. Okay, so the entire content inside, that is the nucleus pulposus, okay, that will come out. Okay, one more theory we have regarding height also I'll tell you. When we wake up in the morning, our height is maximum. Okay, why? Because the discs have been rehydrated. We have taken enough water and rehydrated. But when we are going through with our daily course in the daytime, and we return for sleep, that time we are mostly dehydrated. Okay, we have perspirated and all. So before the sleep, our height is the shortest, just by nanometer, but the discs have become little bit, you can say, congested there, or they have contracted a little bit due to dehydration because of water loss from the nucleus pulposus. That is again a great theory behind discs. Okay, so the thing is, when the discs have ruptured, that is known as disc herniation. This image, where was it? This one, disc herniation. When I was showing you, when this has happened, then it is an irreversible damage. For here you can go for physiotherapy and you can alleviate your symptoms. But if you reach this part, you can never alleviate your symptom. Okay, and then completely disc thinning will happen, and then disc degeneration will happen, and then the two bones may fuse. Unorthodox, you can say, the orthodox fusion will not happen, and the bones will lose their maneuverability, movability, and you may develop something also known by the name as bamboo spine. Bamboo spine. That is, there because the bones they fuse, because when the discs are not there, the bones will start fusing, okay, in the vertebrae. Okay, that is, you will get the bamboo spine. Okay, so that is why it is known as disc degeneration. Disc degeneration. I'll show you the fusion of the bones also. Fusion of vertebra in lower back, you can see here. Just see this one. This is the fusion done by operation. Okay, interbody fusion. They have gone for a specific operation. Metal screws are inserted and fused, because see here there is no disc. But what happens is you cannot fill the disc, so you can keep the, you can say, distance maintained by locking it. They are locking it with screws. That is known as disc fusion. So without disc also, the person will be able to move. Okay, without disc also, because it has been completely locked with screws here. Okay, you can see this X-ray image. You can see the disc is going, the disc has completely disappeared here. It is disappearing badly. Okay, the disc is nowhere, the disc is there. Here little bit is there. Here the disc has disappeared completely. Okay, you can see here also those operation pictures. Okay, so the fusion keeps on happening, lumbar fusion. Okay, that same operation is done in the neck also. Cervical fusion of many athletes, like many Olympic athletes, wrestlers and all. So this is the application of that. Okay, so is there any doubt in this chapter now? Because this chapter is done and dusted with. So any doubt in this chapter? The disc thing I told because Pratham asked. Okay, is there any doubt in this chapter? Anyone? Any doubt? Any chapter in this chapter? Okay, so we have completed this chapter. Okay, yeah, Gayatri, you can go through this chapter. Okay, we'll discuss the bone formation, about the osteoblast, epiphyseal plate and all in the next Google Meet class. Okay, so we'll be doing it, and then we will be, from the next class onwards, we'll be commencing with our specific chapter known as the nervous system, which is the most interesting chapter. Okay, so be ready for that, because here we have a lot of, if you want to be an orthopedist, then it's a great chapter, this one. Like, you have a lot of operations here, surgeries here, fusion operations, right? So you have something known as bone fusion, right? So that is also known as arthrodesis. The bone fusion specifically is known as arthrodesis. So this is taking place here. Okay, so it's a great chapter when it comes to application orientation, like it's sports related injuries, then any kind of tear in the tendon, tear in the, you can say, ligament. One more thing I'll show you is bursa, or bursae is the plural. Before I finish this one, we find a lot of interest in bursa also. So we have more than 140 bursae in our entire body. Okay, so bursa are like this. This is the bursa. You can see this one. Okay, so they are extra, you can say, membrane. This is a synovial membrane containing synovial fluid, and why it is present? It's an extra protection which will prevent this you can say tendon from colliding with the bone, the muscle from colliding with this bone. So they are known as bursa. Okay, so this is a specific type of synovial bursa. Okay, you have this synovial cavity. This one is a synovial cavity, this one. But again, it doesn't collide this tendon with this bone. You have another protection, again a thin synovial membrane which is permeable, containing the synovial fluid, which protects the collision of this tendon with this bone, this muscle with this bone. Okay, this muscle part of this tendon with this bone. Okay, that is known as bursa. So that is one more thing that will that has a lot of application. So sometimes there are, after injury, you have tendinitis, inflammation of this tendon, or if this has been injured, you will be calling it bursitis. So it becomes really difficult for an orthopedician to discern, to differentiate between tendinitis and bursitis, because they are so close by. So which is causing the problem? The symptoms appear almost the same. Okay, so that is one more problem that they encounter. Okay, so okay, so let's conclude this class, and from the next class onwards, we will be starting the nervous system. Okay, okay then. Thanks a lot. Let's meet you in the next class.